Meet Gina Scott with the Spice Factory.
Good afternoon. My name is Gina Scott, and I am the Chief Everything Officer of the Spice Factory. And the Spice Factory is a bespoke branding and marketing mill specializing in recreating brand aesthetic, whether it's the look and feel of an individual, a company, and coming up with the entire design package and aesthetic.
I love that. Thank you so much. And my name is Angela Thompson, and I am with ArKAngel Enterprises, LLC. And I have the honor and the privilege to be here with Miss Gina Scott. And one of the things that we've been doing throughout this month is talking about how we know each other. And so I would be remiss if I didn't talk about the incredible person that Miss Gina Scott is. And so she talked about her business, but that's a slither of what she does. She's an amazing person. And we're both members of the Rho Mu Omega chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. And we're not just members. Miss Gina Scott has many titles in our chapter, in the region, and also nationally. You have the oversight and the responsibility for programming in one form, fashion, or the other, and you have the ability and the skills and the wherewithal and the humility to bring us all together as if we were all doing the same thing at the same time and we all had a significant role. And for that, I applaud you. That is a gift. That is a true gift. And I am so honored to know you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And beyond that, we're going to talk a lot about the Spice Factory, but we can't talk about the Spice Factory without kind of bringing out some of the background that led you to some of the relationships that you had to build the Spice Factory, and that is your role in the NFLPA and what you bring to bear there. I'm going to turn it over to you to see how those relationships with all of the different things that you do, and maybe things that I have not even covered, how it helped to shape and to form where you are now with the Spice Factory.
Yeah, well, as you said, yes, my day job, I'd like to say, because I do wear very many hats, is I oversee partnership marketing with the NFL Players Association, which means I work directly on the revenue side of our business, basically making money for professional football players off the field. We are a licensing agency and we collectively monetize their rights, but I've also recently gained the responsibility of overseeing all of our marketing efforts. And that really involves helping to shape our overall brand, our tone, our voice, what NFL Players Incorporated means to the consumer outside of building. So whether that's translating sentiment and brand awareness, the interesting thing is we are not what I would call a consumer brand, which means you can't go in the store and buy us, but you can experience what we bring to the field. We've got 2,200 players who really bring in their on-field talent and what they do professionally, coupled with the work that they do in their communities. That's really what our brand is. So when you see our logo, we call it the logo man. It represents the hard work on and off the field of our 2,200 players. So, your question is interesting when you talk about how it ties together, whether it's relationship building or my professional career. But I have been in some form of marketing my entire career. And I guess I find myself always working on the brand side. So I've always been very influential on building how people see the brand that I work for. So whether it was, I started my career in college athletics, and everyone knows the LSU Tigers. And my job there was actually working individually with every coach to not only get people to come to their games and support their games, but really helping to build the brands, doing posters with student athletes and really setting the tone when you came to the brand. What did you see on the scoreboard? What did you hear? Kind of like, what did you feel, the sentiment? And then I work for other major Fortune 500 brands, whether it's Delta Airlines or an NBA franchise, the Atlanta Hawks. So again, my role has always been to somewhat help build the image of the brand. So when I transitioned on this side, I kind of stayed in that role, except it was collectively taking the power of 2,200 NFL players ranging from ages 18 to over 40 and really translating that into consumer sentiment and retail power. The way I got started in the Spice Factory is that I do have a talent, whether it's, I always say my superpower is building relationships, because everything that I've done in my career, I've always either been on the marketing or the sponsorship side, and you can't get people to support your brand or to purchase your product without knowing how to build and cultivate those relationships, either with brand managers or when you're going in and asking for money. And that kind of also led to another talent that I possess that I didn't really realize it is I do a lot of graphic design. But to me, it was never really about the graphic design. It was about making everything come to life. And in the basketball world, when I worked with the professional NBA team, we called it the show. And it had everything to experience when you sat in your seat, from what you heard, what you saw on the scoreboard, what the dancers were doing and wearing, the entire package. And a lot of times people do not look at themselves as an individual, as a package. And so that's really what led me to do a lot of work that I kind of was doing as a side hustle, and really said, you know what, I would love to do this. And during the pandemic, probably like many people, I kind of was introspective and looked at, okay, what really can I do to help create my own second career, independent of my professional job? And that's where my company was born. And it's interesting because, again, I go back to that very key word of relationships. And one of my leadership roles in the sorority in 2018, I was tapped on the shoulder and asked to join the administration of the then North Atlantic Regional Director, Mary Bentley Lamar. And I think the first time she sent something my way, and it may have been something as simple as an undergraduate form, and she asked me if I could just make it look better. And it's, I'm extra. So instead of like probably operating at a 3 on a 1 to 10 scale, I kind of operated as like a 20. And when I sent it back to her, what I didn't realize is I was setting the tone for her administration. And from that point on, she literally gave me a canvas to do whatever I wanted to do. And I am very proud of the fact that I was one of those sorors that was on the early end of helping build the brand of a region. So I did everything from redo the PowerPoints to the registration book materials to all the logos. And again, that started to brand everything under her administration, but it never would have started without my relationship and someone giving me the opportunity. Now I look across the sorority and I think that's the norm now, where you've got regional directors coming in and they operate at a certain standard. And I'm very proud to know that I was probably a part of setting that standard that's now considered the norm. And the final point that I would say, and bringing that relationship full circle, is that some of my very first clients that started to pay me for my work when I created the Spice Factory came from those relationships that were created with Alpha Kappa Alpha, whether it was sorors paying me to go on and do things like their campaign materials, with upcoming elections. I mentioned Mary Bentley Lamar, who gave me some of my earlier opportunities. Well, she is the executive director of the Sickle Cell Association of New Jersey. And I am proud to say I am on my 3rd contract as the brand agency of record with the Sickle Cell Association of New Jersey, which started with that relationship.
I am so super proud of you. I am so super proud of you. I think we've been underrating the fact that the brand starts with you. And so you are your own brand, and you have
Absolutely.
kind of organically and authentically led us to be our own brand as well. And that is what we can expect, not just from you, but from the Spice Factory and everything that you touch. And so I think that what you do is powerful. And she would not have known to reach out to you if your reputation had not preceded itself. You have created your own brand so that people know who Gina Scott is.
And I will say, Angela, it's interesting because your individual brand is so important. But when you go out and you create a company and you start charging people for services that you are rendering, your brand is probably doubly important, right? When you are establishing yourself as an entrepreneur, it's not just you, the person, and knowing someone casually. It's an entirely different relationship when you are in a business relationship as well. And that's probably been one of the, I wouldn't say challenging things, but again, when you are reestablishing yourself as an entrepreneur, branding is so incredibly important. And I think, again, that is one of the pillars of the spice factory. It's not just helping you look good. It's about understanding who you are as a brand and then making that come out when we are doing your materials, no matter what they are. You may, in your mind, you may think you are one thing. I ask a lot of questions when I'm doing consulting calls, a lot of questions. And the questions that I ask, first and foremost, it's to figure out if I am a fit just as much if they are a fit with me. I don't take every client or every referral that comes my way. It is critical that I sit down and have a conversation because my services may not be right for that person, or it may not feel like something that I can take on, and I'm very honest with that because it goes back to that's who I am as a brand and as a business owner. And that's critical for delivering commitment, keeping your integrity. But when I am going through my consulting calls, by the time that we're done and I'm preparing that scope of work and the finished product, hopefully the finished product reflect what has come out of that survey, that questionnaire. And sometimes people are unaware what they may convey is what their true personal brand is. And that's a great discovery process.
But I'm glad you said that because that is something we really hadn't touched on, is that to be not so much selective, but making sure it's the right fit. And so if you're going to build relationships, not all relationships are good relationships. And it also has to do with timing. And so the service that you are providing based on what you're hearing from your clients may not be something that they are in the season to receive or that they can actually do for many different reasons. And
for many different reasons. And again, I think with me, I can't let the fact be known that I still have a professional job, right? This is my business on the side. So a lot of what I don't have the liberty where, this is 100% my time and focus. So a lot of what I'm still juggling. And this is why I said in the beginning that I am a very bespoke agency because it's got to be the right fit. A lot of times people may come to me and they may ask me to do things that are simply not in my wheelhouse. And I'm like, I'd love to refer you. That's not what I do. Or they may need it tomorrow. And guess what? I can't work on that deadline. So I'm going to have to pass on this job, or, I like to sit down and say, okay, well, what's the total package? Is this something that you are looking to do from a 3 months, 6 months time frame? What is the end result? And let's talk about what may be best. Because again, I want to make sure if I am taking on and committing to someone, I can fulfill what they need. And then there are those things that will come up last minute and I'm never going to turn them down. The first project that I had to do, I think was actually someone came to ask me to do a memorial program. And I'm like, ooh, I've never done a program. But after I thought about it, I was like, well, it's a program. Of course you can do it.
That is good to know too, because I did not realize that was part of your business that you were doing. I assumed it was
and when
you
you
were
think
working with
about
small
it,
businesses.
it's branding, right? And I think after that, someone asked, and they were doing a memorial for their family member, and they needed oversized photos, and they wanted giveaways done on bottles and everything. And again, I just never thought of the occasion, but everything that I did, it was almost like packaging, just doing a brand package for a memorial service. And then unfortunately, when I had one of my family members pass away, my sister and I, we just couldn't ask anyone to do his work. And I think in a week, we laughed because we said, I guess we're in the funeral production services. We had done a 10-page full color program book, a video, a music video tribute, oversized photos to go at the service. And we put everything in a QR code so you wouldn't have to print the photo. Everything was like digital.
That's that 20 you were talking about before.
It was extra. And like once we realized that and for us, we were like, well, this is normal. But it's funny because after we sat down and thought about it, we were like, you know what? This is what we mean when we say bringing the entire package together. And these are things that sometimes folks are not thinking about in the moment. And so I do like to think the Spice Factory also helps to like take you to that next level, because sometimes you don't know what you need. But I love in working with my clients, I come in and I always give them a little something extra that they did not know that they needed.
Right. Let's
Yeah.
talk about the name. Everything is in a name. How did you come up
Everything is
with
in
the
a name.
Spice Factory?
So let's see. So the Spice Factory comes out of my love of branding and my love of travel. So one of my favorite places that I visited was Morocco. And I remember the first time I was in Morocco, I was walking down the street of Tangiers and a spice market. And the beautiful thing about that part of the country is you go to a spice market and it's 20 different spices, and you know, the cumin, the hibiscus, everything over there, the exotic spices. And it's interesting because you can blend them in different amounts and in different spices, and you're always going to come away with something very, very unique. I don't know if you're ever going to get anything that's exactly the same because it's so many different blends out there. And so when I started thinking about how do I bring out that everybody is an individual brand, there is no one out there, even if you are an identical twin, which I am, that who's exactly alike. And again, my the dynamic of my company is we sit down, we talk, we go through a series of questions, and you're going to give me a little bit here, a little bit there. We're going to mix it all together. And when the blend is done, it is going to be something that is so unique to you and your company. And so that just reminded me of when I was walking through the Spice Factory that you can take so many different things and blend it, and you're never going to get the exact same spice or blend. And so I kind of took that concept of uniqueness and being bespoke and my love of travel, and it that's how the Spice Factory was born. So
I
so my
love that.
tagline is, you know, designing for brand you know, because it's all about brand you, not brand someone else. So, and then I picked up a little bit of the colors. Two of my well, and actually orange is not my favorite color, but I use that as a base because it reminded me of spices. And I threw in a little bit of turquoise again because that is my favorite color. And then one of my icons that is representative of my company is a butterfly. And the reason why I chose a butterfly is, again, a butterfly starts off as a caterpillar, but after they mature and grow, right before your eyes, they turn into a beautiful butterfly. And again, there are no two butterflies that are the same, but you need that maturation period and that period for that caterpillar to almost incubate before it blossoms into something beautiful right before your eyes.
I love that. I absolutely love that.
Yes.
Let's talk about some of the services that you offer. So we know you produce products,
Yes.
material, whatever
Yes.
they happen to be, brand material,
Yep.
anything that is unique, and probably
Yes.
things that people hadn't even thought about. But you also have services too. You're talking to folks about
I
having
do.
them to fine tune where
Yes.
they are at a
I
particular
love the way you
time.
said that. Fine
Yeah.
tune. I will often go into various size groups and talk about how to build your brand.
Mhm.
And it is certainly customizable based on the audience. I've given brand presentations to high school students, all the way up to leadership academies. And then I also have a version of it where, you know, it can talk about building your professional brand to audiences. So it covers everything from building an individual brand to your professional brand. I also, in my company, it's consulting services. Sometimes you don't need physical products. You literally just need someone to sit down and help you build a strategy. So I have a client now who is launching a new leadership development firm, and she wants to launch it this spring. And it was really about sitting down, not only helping her come up with her look and feel and her visual identity, but it was really putting a strategy on paper. Okay, what do you need to do? What's your go-to-market strategy? What is your launch strategy? What do you need to do within the first 3 months? What audiences are you trying to reach? Do you need to be in certain publications? Do you need to buy advertising? So it was really coming up with, are there trademarks that you need to consider? So that was, I do sit down and do consulting strategies, again, on various topics. And then with that, I am also a part-time adjunct professor where I teach a partnerships class to George Washington University. So we talk a lot about branding, but the flip side of that is how do you take your brand and how do you seek partnerships? So it goes back to that relationship building that we talk about at the beginning of the call when we started. So I teach a cohort, I co-teach a cohort, and it's all about how to build, what are the building blocks of successful partnerships. So that is the educational side of me, the classroom side, where it just talks about the initial steps of if you've got something and you want to find out how do you procure partners and sponsors, like where do you start from there?
I absolutely love that. I do. And so the clients that you have, we're not talking always about a one-time engagement. We're talking about relationships. And so that same client, for example, that you talked about, she's going to have needs beyond her launch. And so she's going to go into her next phase, and that's going to be a building block for something else.
It will.
To what degree do you have ongoing relationships with your clients, whether it be from an individual brand or maybe from a group or a company?
The great thing, I have the fortunate benefit is that I do have a lot of repeat clients. But again, I never want to be in a situation where I'm also just rinsing and washing and giving one client the exact same product that I gave someone else, because that kind of really goes against my brand principle. So I am enjoying the fact right now that I have I guess, a ongoing client base, because they are consistent and repeat clients, and then I get those word of mouth clients as well. So good place to be in right now.
I love that. And you're also managing expectations, which is key. We're going to wrap up soon, but tell us about maybe a success story. You don't have to name any of your clients, but when they come to you, what have you seen in terms of growth for some of your clients? Give us an example.
So it's funny because I would probably say the one thing that probably comes to mind is when I had a client give me my own verb. And so when she comes to me and she needs me to tweak things, she'll say, "Can you genetize it?" And we laugh about it, but that's her way of basically saying how I have basically changed things around, and I'll give things a whole new look. And that look is usually something that she's gonna like 10 out of 10. I was like, "You have given me a verb."
I will remember that.
And I laughed so hard. I was like, "What did you say?" And she literally will send it. She was like, "Can you genetize this?" And I actually know exactly what she means.
That is relationship building at
It
its
is truly
best.
relationship, because if someone else were to say it, it's not going to mean the same thing. But that literally came out of our working relationship. And, I would work on projects and she'll say, "Well, I'll send you what we did last year. But that's not really what I want." Right. And so, yeah, that's probably what I just think of. Like, what I may be most proud of is that I know that I have made a difference in helping to bring her vision to life.
I love that. Gina, if folks wanted to get in touch with you to procure your services, how do they do that?
So I take all inquiries at the Spice Factory LLC at gmail.com. So as I said, I will do a consulting call with anyone. Consulting calls are absolutely complimentary, but they can drop me a note at the Spice Factory LLC at gmail.com. And I am always happy to set up a consulting call and to send samples of my past work as well.
I love that. Gina, I am so proud of you. I am so
Thank
incredibly proud of
you.
you.
Thank you for the opportunity to just share about my business as well, and giving me this platform.
You're doing some incredible work and you are an incredible person. Everyone, I introduce you again to Gina Scott, my friend, and now yours is Gina Scott. I love you.